Across from them, Luis just sat back against a support beam, eyes empty. "She's not stopping," he murmured. "She's not leaving. She's not like the last one." Kyle looked to Brent. "What if we all make a run for the outer fence? There's the drainage ditch. Did you see what she did to Jackson?" "To Mark," Brent hissed. "She's toying with us. We're so screwed, man." Luis nodded slowly. "Yeah, we're so screwed." They didn't know it yet, but while they whispered in the dark, 2 more of their number were already gone. Elsewhere in the village, Daniel had hidden in a broken chimney top on the bakery roof. He'd thought the height gave him safety, but it just gave her a clear view. The woman smiled to herself as she leaned down, hands resting on the second-story windowsill. "A chimney? That's adorable." She reached up, plucked it off like a piece of a dollhouse, and pinched Daniel between her fingers. He screamed, flailing, his legs kicking the air. "You've all been so shy," she whispered, then opened her mouth and dropped him in. One quick swallow. Gone. A minute later, she spotted Troy under a flower pot in the garden centre display. He had wedged himself under the cracked terracotta, thinking she wouldn't notice the disturbed soil. She did. Lifting the pot slowly, she cooed, "What have we here?" Troy backed up, hands raised. "Please, no." She sat down cross-legged, dropped him into her palm and shut her fist. She hummed as she squeezed. His legs kicked once, then nothing. She opened her hand, still smiling. 7, she whispered to herself. "No, make that 5. Back under the fire station. The 3 remaining men were about to split up. Maybe it would help, maybe not, when they heard the sound. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, close. The ground trembled under her bare feet. Kyle froze. Brent held up a finger to quiet them, though none of them were breathing loudly. Then the shadow moved past the slit in the wall, and everything stopped. She'd heard them. A moment later, the wall was gone. She'd peeled it off with both hands like a can lid. "There you are." Kyle bolted into the nearest street. He didn't think. He just ran. He heard Brent scream behind him, then the clap of a palm smacking down on hollow plastic. He didn't look back. Brent was gone. Luis had dashed into a house, one of the small, sturdy ones at the model's outer ring. He slid beneath a bed and curled into the shadows. But she was patient. He heard her humming again. The door creaked open. Then, metal against plastic. The screwdriver. The roof came off. Her shadow poured in. Then the bed lifted. "No, oh no, no!" Luis scrambled, but she plucked him up easily. She stared at him for a moment. "You were the quiet one." She didn't even open her mouth this time, just pressed him into her stomach with a slow, deliberate push of her hand. 2 remained. She moved through the village, slower now, careful, watching, every tiny creak, every flick of movement, but she found nothing. After 5 minutes of silence, she stood at the edge of the village and looked out across the cracked pavement and overgrown weeds beyond the model walls. They left. She stepped over the tiny barrier and began patrolling the overgrown perimeter. She was methodical, scanning every patch of grass, every rock. Then, movement. She dropped to a crouch. There, hidden in a ditch along the border of the park, was Mason. Curled into the mud, he pressed himself flat. But she had seen him. Her fingers wrapped around the edge of the ditch and slid in. Mason screamed and kicked as she dragged him out. "Thought you'd be clever," she said with a grin. "Almost worked." He thrashed in her fingers, but she tilted her head back and lowered him toward her mouth. "No, please," he cried. She didn't answer. She dropped him in and let him squirm on her tongue before swallowing. One left. The hardest one. She scoured the perimeter, circled the village twice, then 3 times. It was only when she stood near the old amusement park fence that she noticed it. Tiny movement, not in the model, not in the grass, but beyond it. Running. Toward the road. She narrowed her eyes. "Oh no, you don't," she growled. She took off after him. He was already crossing the cracked pavement, barely 10 feet from the tree line, a car in the distance faintly visible. He looked back. His name was Derek, and saw her closing fast. He dove toward a weed-strewn drainage pipe, but she stepped in front of it, blocking him. He slid to a halt. Panting, shaking, he raised his hands. "I'm not a threat. I'm just a person. Please, let me go. Let me live. You don't have to—" She held up her hand. "Shh." He blinked. She smiled, soft and final. "Good night." Her foot came down with precision. No ceremony, no speech, just silence. The sun had started to lower by the time she walked back through the ruined village. She paused, glanced over the toy-sized streets, the crushed buildings, the little remnants of lives that had tried so hard to hold on. Then, without a word, she turned and walked calmly back to her car. She opened the driver's door, stepped in barefoot, and pulled the door closed with a dull thud. The engine started. She didn't look back.